right. Well, good afternoon. Welcome to JourneyOn Conversations, a monthly webcast where we talk with leaders and members of Fayetteville First Baptist Church and beyond about what it means to pursue a Christ-centered life. My name is Jack Miller, and I'm the pastor of senior adults here at Fayetteville First. And as you're aware, November 11th is Veterans Day. A day in which we honor our military veterans who have served in the armed forces. This month in our conversation, we're speaking with Neil Cosson, who is a military veteran and a member here at Fayetteville First Baptist. Also joining us is Pastor Pat Fleming. He is one of the regional chaplains for Operation Heal Our Patriots, a ministry of Samaritan's Purse. So please welcome our guests to our Journey On conversation. Welcome, gentlemen. Great to have you today. Neil, I'm going to begin with you. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, your family, and give us a brief history of your military career.
Sure. So my name's Neil Cosen, and I served in the military from 2001 till about 2016. I fought in Iraq. I fought in Afghanistan. I was in the Marine Corps infantry. And yeah, now I got two kids. I live here in Fayetteville. I got out in 2016 on an early release program because I got an opportunity to kind of pursue a different career path, and that's kind of what led me here.
All right. Share a little bit about your relationship with Christ.
Sure. So I grew up going to church and going to church with my family, my grandparents, and I mean most of my family all goes to the same church back home. And I think like most young people, once I moved away from home and was around a different crowd of people, I really kind of strayed off the path. I know one of the first sermons I remember from Fayetteville First Baptist was very much about that exact kind of scenario about, when kids kind of move away and kind of start growing up and being a little bit more independent, that happens. And, fast forward to, later in my military career, where I really hadn't been an active member of the church and I really hadn't been, following a Christ-centered life. It wasn't until much later in my career in the military that I actually ended up running into very devout Christians who were also, Marine Corps infantry. And that really, I think, kind of gave me a reality check, kind of put things into perspective and made me kind of question, like why I ever kind of strayed from that path to begin with, right? Because here was people, who've been doing the exact same thing and with the exact same career and had done all the exact same things I had done, who never kind of got off the path. And they really kind of helped me correct myself. And then, later, after I had actually left the Marine Corps, we came to one of the October events at Fayetteville First Baptist, and my wife was like, we really gotta reevaluate kind of how we're living and what we're doing. And I was like, what, you're absolutely right. And yeah, I think that was like really a big step, like that discipleship from the church and the community, paired with kind of the relationships I built leaving the Marine Corps, really put me back on the right path. Really kind of helped put things into perspective and really kind of led me to a point where I kind of reevaluated myself and what I was doing. So,
wow, great. Thank you for sharing that. Pastor Fleming, share with us a little bit about you, what Operation Heal Our Patriots is about, and what you do there at Operation Heal Our Patriots.
Sure. I've got a lovely wife that I went to kindergarten with, and we re-met after 12 years of Catholic school for me and public school for her. Got thrown out of the house because we didn't like, my family didn't like Protestants, so we got the boot, and we went to church twice a day. We were really, or twice a Sunday, we were really religious. We went to the Methodist Church and Catholic Church until at the age of 27. I was freed from religion and understood what real Christianity was all about. As I went to church to put up with my mother-in-law, who was, or my future mother-in-law, who was a Christian, and God took hold of my life, and I haven't looked back. The people that have come alongside me and helped me and mentored me through the years, been fabulous to end up here with Operation Heal Our Patriots. And Operation Heal Our Patriots, or we call it OHOP, is kind of an interesting ministry. Franklin Graham and his son Edward Graham were walking in this little community of Port Allsworth, Alaska. And they were walking along, and Edward, who is a graduate of West Point and an Army Ranger, and just kept sharing with Dad that his men, using it in a generic term, his men needed help. Their marriages were falling apart. They had so many things that were happening that they just weren't able to hold it together, and divorce was just rampant in so many of his men. As they were walking, there was a defunct fishing village, and they began to pray about it and realize that maybe they could make a difference in military marriages. And so from that, back in 2010, 2011, they bought a defunct fishing village that was in this little town, and they began to convert it. And in 2012, we had our first season. We started with 4 couples because we only had 4 cabins ready. But then by the end of the season, we would bring in 10 couples. And we've grown to the point now that we bring in 10 couples a week. And we have a 17-week season this year.
Wow.
And we've actually devoted 2 of the weeks to police officers because we know what they're going through and what's important. But we invite in to apply any injured veteran who is biblically married, who was injured since 9/11, because that's really the target audience for these married couples, to be able to speak to them and minister to them. And we bring them into Alaska. They come in on a Sunday evening. And then the full week through Friday afternoon, there are classes, there are activities, and all of them are very specific. We teach them how to tie flies. We take them fly fishing, take them bear watching. Monday morning, the first thing we do with our couples is we put them in a kayak together. And it's amazing what we can learn about their communication with one another.
Yeah.
Because we had some that just spin around in circles because they just don't talk. And it really is a setup for the rest of the week. And we deal with everything from 5 love languages to family systems, and walk them through the week. And on Friday morning, we give them opportunity, if they've accepted Christ during the week, to be baptized in 45-degree water. So we freeze the devil out of them when they go in there. And we give them opportunity to renew their vows, because so many, God really wasn't part of their marriage at the beginning. And it's amazing, some of the stats that, if you have 160, 180 couples that will go in, you'll probably have 80 plus first-time commitments to Christ. You'll have close to 100 will renew their vows. It's a really, really powerful introduction to the church. And so that's what we do in Alaska. But there's so much more that comes from that. And again, our primary purpose is to introduce them to Jesus Christ. Okay, yeah. The secondary purpose is to bring healing to their marriage. And the third is to find a local church, to plug them into a church so they can become viable and grow. And we never leave them, because we make commitments to follow them for life, but we also understand the importance of the local church.
Yeah, hang on to that thought for a minute, because I want you to expound a little bit more on that part of it here in a minute. Thank you for that introduction. Neil, you mentioned discipleship. You mentioned how did being a Christ follower benefit you while serving? And then how does it benefit you now? You kind of alluded to it, but how does it benefit you now?
Sure, and I've had that to really put a lot of thought into it, and not in being a Christ follower, but I look around, a lot of my friends, a lot of people I was in the military with, just a lot of people in the military in general have a lot of they have a real hard time to either dealing with whatever had happened while they were in, or dealing with not having that in their life anymore. In the military, it's very much community focused. Like you're very much part of a community, that you always have support structure, and you always have people around to talk to, and you really develop these really close relationships. And so I think a lot of people leave, and they don't have anything else to kind of fill that in for them, right? Especially if they weren't Christ followers prior to joining. And I think about all the people that I do know that have all of these problems, and I think about, what is it about my life that was different, where I don't really have a lot of these issues that I see. Like, don't get me wrong, like I have my emotional moments, and just like anybody else, but I don't have this, like I've never really had a severe breakdown, or my life is pretty good. And so it's like, what's different? What did I do differently than everybody else that I know that was in similar situations I was, that are now having problems, right? So I know plenty of people who have tons of problems, who are veterans, who have great jobs and have married, like they're married and have kids, and still have some serious side effects and a lot of problems with coping with it. And I think the biggest difference for me that I've observed is like I have that community still, right? And it's not the Marine Corps anymore. Now it's other Christ followers. It's the local church, and I don't think, even not individuals, beyond individuals thinking about, I think just the community, or just kind of our society as a whole doesn't appreciate the value, or doesn't really comprehend the what having that gap, or not having that community, means for them, right? And I know that through my discipleship, through my following of Christ, like I know if I have an issue, if I need something, I know there's a group of people out there that are part of my community, who have the same struggles, who have the same thoughts, and have the same issues that I'm having, that I can at least have a conversation with. I know that if I need help, I know I have a community that I can reach out to get that help if I need it, right? And I think a lot of people, especially, like I said, especially people that really weren't following Christ prior to the military, I don't think they know how to, like, I think a big part of their issue is coping with that lack of community that now exists, that they never find a way to fill it in with something else. Right. As I think back on it, I think about all my other friends who do have, very much are very centered around Christ, and living biblically, and holding to Christian values. And I see the same thing that in their lives that I see in my life. Like, they don't have don't get me wrong, they still have issues. It's just, it's not it's not ruining their marriages. It's not destroying their lives. They haven't reverted to alcoholism or drug abuse, like I see a lot of other veterans have. And I really do think that being part of the community, and really understanding like where my value comes from, where my ethics and morals based out of, right? I don't have to question. I know where that's founded in, and I know that if I ever have a problem, I know there's going to be somebody there to help me, you know. So I really think that for me, not just being grateful to have the church and the church community that we have, but also I think God put me on the path to really fully understand and appreciate that coming out of the Marine Corps. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, as you know, here at Fayetteville First Baptist Church, we believe discipleship is so vitally important in our walk with Christ. And as a matter of fact, it is our walk with Christ, and so we certainly have that atmosphere of discipleship and the importance of that. Pastor Fleming, you'd mentioned the third part of the importance of discipleship and getting the family's plugged into a local church. How do you go about doing that with those families? How do you keep up with them?
Okay. Hey, and I'd like to piggyback on what Neil just said just a little bit, because when we deal with an injured veteran, they're broken. They've been told by their family, their cultural family, that they need to leave, and they leave as a Marine, as a soldier, as a corpsman, or as an airman, they leave that, and they often have to rediscover a purpose. And instead of a life family, they really need an everlasting family. And that's what the church brings. And so we need to plug them into there. And so in Alaska, we have the opportunity to start to build the relationship with these couples, with their families. But then as they leave there, we find touch points so that we can continue to develop that relationship. We contact them on birthdays, on anniversaries, on what's called an Alive Day. And it sounds pretty spiritual, but it isn't. It's a tragic day in the life of the injured veteran. It's a day when they were blown up, they were shot, maybe lost battle buddies. And so that's a significant day that we contact them on, as well as when there's other life events, we make sure that we contact them and build that relationship. So that really is first level. But then as we work it through on other levels, when our alumni come along and we see that they're focused, working in a church, we want to take them to the next level. And so we make them key leaders so they can begin working in their communities, in their local areas, to connect with our OHOP couples that maybe are near them and need somebody to support them, love on them, and take care of that. So that's a different level of discipleship where we're pulling them into those leadership roles. And we're dealing with over 1,400 couples right now that have gone through our program. And so constant contact with them is important. But we also find out who's got a good church. We also find out, like I'd say to Neil here, Neil's part of your congregation. If we have someone that is living in the Fayetteville area or coming back from Alaska after accepting Christ, I would call Neil and say, hey, Neil, I got this great couple, but we need to give them an entryway into your church. Can you come alongside them? Can you help them? Can you support them? And we'll bring them into the church community that way. We have others that are established, and we're constantly trying to create those networks. We also know of networks of our Operation Christmas Child churches, and we'll connect with them and make sure they're focused and say, hey, can you help us with a couple? We've got a couple that wants to come to church, because couples are much more likely to return if they know somebody.
Yeah.
So we'll do that, but we're always encouraging them to add tools into their toolbox, as we call it, to help them and support them. And we do a yearly reunion when COVID isn't around. We've actually got Chip Ingram lined up to be our speaker to work with us at that. And we have other speakers that will build on what they learned in Alaska. We also have Fortify Your Marriage weekends where we bring in 10, 15 couples. And again, we continue to feed into their toolbox in various areas. Aftercare regional meetings where we bring the families together and provide support for the kids. But our whole purpose, we come in and we don't want to replace the church. We want to be there because Samaritan's Purse is an arm of the church. It is not the local church. We don't want to grab people out and provide church services on air. We do Bible studies online to help them and build in certain. We've done Dave Ramsey online for some of them to help them. But ultimately, we keep directing them to the church, and with the hope that the church they're going to is going to point them to God's word and point them to Christ. And so we continue to work through. We are available for crisis care too. One of our veterans, with everything going on in Afghanistan and with 9/11, took his life 2 weeks ago. And part of my background, part of the credentials that God has given me, my life credentials, not only the deaths that I've experienced in my families, but I'm a licensed funeral director, and I flew into Chicago and walked the family through every aspect of the funeral, and then tagged out for their local pastors, so their pastor could lead them through that aspect. So it really is a ministry where we try to come alongside, encourage them to get involved in Bible studies, service groups, lots going on. And I could talk for hours on what we're doing. We've got groups of our veterans with spouses and kids that are now in New Orleans serving with Team Patriot, another part of our ministry where they go in and do disaster relief side by side. And it's a comfortable environment because they're with other veterans. And so whether it's through our ministry or whether it's through the ministry of your church, being able to connect veterans to veterans and helping them to see others that, as Neil was saying, have it more together with their Christ family, to be able to show them that there's more beyond the military.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. I tell you, I wish we had more time. Unfortunately, our time is expiring, but thank you for sharing, gentlemen, your areas of discipleship and ministry and what that means. Certainly, Operation Heal Our Patriots is just a wonderful organization, and certainly we're great. We're just thankful to be a part of helping with that. So thank you guys for joining me this month for our Journey On conversation. Again, I wish we had more time. Love to hear more, and maybe we can do it again sometime. And thank you, everyone that's out there that's listening and for joining us on this month's episode. Remember, the journey is the destination. So journey on. And God bless all of you. Gentlemen, take care. Thank you.
God bless. Thank you.